Hello and welcome to my studio. I'm Jessie and this is the Knit Up and Die podcast, episode 107, Spun Up and Unwinding. As always, I'm going to start with my thank you list. You guys mean the world to me. Thank you for being a part of my business, a part of my day, and a part of my world. Special love and thanks go out to Amy, Emily, Toonie, Glenda, Tara, Diane, Allison, Barbara, Lib, Joy, Adriana, Wayne, Sonia, Patricia, Lisa Lette, Cappy, Kath, Jorge, Chris, Benty, Christy, Needsy, Charlotte, Roseanne, Linda, Marie, Eve, David, Donna, Betty Ann, Scott, John, Kate, Janet, Terry, Monica, Carolyn, Nancy, and Rachel. I love you all. Much love goes out to my Zoom family, Robert, Juanita, Paula, Brian, Jen, Elizabeth, Katie, Shirley, Roz, and Jamie. I hope to see you guys later today. A warm hello goes out to all of my patrons. You honor me. You make this possible, and I can't do it without you. Thank you. Life. Hi. I took last weekend off and really just gave myself some time to unwind, enjoy the weather, catch up on yard chores. Oh my goodness, was there a lot of work to do. And put my head in a totally different space to give myself that time where my subconscious is the only one working on creative process, so that my foremind get to relax and kind of come up with new things, be inspired. Really, taking time away from creative works helps me be more creative, and I needed a break. I needed some time off. So I missed you guys. I thought a lot about, I should go and do a podcast, and then I thought, nope, I'm gonna take this time and breathe. And thank you for being patient with me while I do that. It also gave me a lot of time to contemplate different aspects of my business that need change. One of which being my e-commerce site, my website. So as you know, if you follow me and shop with me, I've been using Etsy for a number of years. There have been some significant changes to the back end of Etsy. They've made changes that have complicated how we get our data about our sales, about the fees that we're paying, so that when it comes to tax season, it's kind of a nightmare. And just really, unless you have a hobby business, if you're actually filing taxes, if you're actually running a business, it's very difficult to know what you're paying, what your fees are, and it's hard to understand the impact of discounts. It's hard to understand really the cost of doing business with them. It's kind of a confusing platform. I'm sure people more skilled than myself have it all navigated out and are like, oh yeah, I pay for this. You got to dig around to get that information, and that's a bigger challenge than this small business person wants to face right now. There's also, because of the size of the market, because of the size of some of the companies that use them as a clearinghouse, there's a lot of pressure to either grow and be bigger and offer more benefits to buyers, such as free shipping. There's a lot of pressure there for that, and that's very difficult for a small business. It really, truly is. And so over the past year and a half, I've been contemplating going back to having an individual website, my own personal e-commerce site. There's added maintenance to that. There's, honestly, there's not. So my concerns about going with a private website were integration with shipping, so that I didn't have to go to the post office and manually ship everything, that I could click a button and it would calculate and generate and print my label for me and purchase my label for me. Which the United States Postal Service website is very good about that, but there's a lot of manual stuff you got to enter. Marketing, of course, is an issue. I want to be sure that I'm marketing my business. And Etsy, of course, puts that out there on the search engines for you, and depending on which shop package you're enrolled in, depending on which benefits you offer your buyers in your shop, they promote you at different levels. It's a little unfair. If you're a small company, it's hard to get seen. It's hard to get seen. It's hard to get seen as a small company ever. Ever. Never mind when you're competing against many other vendors. So that was a concern for me, was my visibility, my ability to easy ship, my ability for a clearinghouse, which PayPal is beautiful, they do that. I have found an e-commerce provider, there we go, that handles all of this for me and really has a nice, easy, comprehensive back end that allows me to plug in my products and make them saleable while connecting to search engines, while connecting to other seller platforms, while integrating into a website for me. It's taken me a year and a half to get to this point. And even then, last night when I finally pulled the trigger on this and I finally said, okay, I'm investing, I'm going to do this, the price is actually extremely affordable. When I compared it against what I've paid out monthly through my other selling service, I'm saving money. I'm saving money, which means I can offer better discounts, more sales, more everything. I can do more. But it was a real leap of faith to start this process, to say, okay, I'm going to do a website on my own again. I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of stores. I've talked to a lot of indie dyers to see what they're doing, see what they recommended, see what their thoughts were. A lot of others are sitting where I was 6 months, a year ago, where they're contemplating change. They're trying to figure out if it's going to work for them. It's a big, big commitment to make a change like that. Certainly it's going to be a time commitment for me. I've got approximately 1/10 of my store set up. I am going to leave my Etsy shop running until such time that I can fully say, flip the switch, we're live, we're doing this here. And of course, I will let you guys know as soon as it's live so that you can see what I've been working on. I'm hoping it's a nice, clean experience. I'm hoping that it's visually clean, exciting, fun, easy to use. I'm trying to integrate everything into a one-stop kind of location where you can readily see my blog, my videos, do custom orders, sign up for things. It'll all be in one place, theoretically. I'm working very hard to integrate this for you. Like I said, that's a time commitment and it's a mental commitment. And honestly, the time I spent last weekend cutting down dead tree limbs and raking out leaves and all the home care things that I did really allowed this to fester in my subconscious and help me sort out a lot of stuff. And I don't know that I would have been able to make this decision even this year if I hadn't taken that time off. So as much as it's time off, it's actually time working. You don't realize how much your brain is doing when you're not actively thinking about stuff. It's healing and it's processing and it's sorting, and aren't our brains amazing? Isn't it amazing what we're capable of and what we can elevate to, and the different levels of thought and process and emotion? And I'm forever fascinated by my capacity, and I hope that everybody takes time to appreciate their capacities, whether it's their capacity to create, their capacity to love, their capacity to calculate or process or whatever your brain's talent is, music or art or cooking or knitting or crochet or spinning or weaving or painting. Oh, I wish I was a painter or a drawer. I can't sketch to save my life. Or to sing. Oh, if my steering wheel could talk, it would tell you horrible, horrible things. I love to sing, but I'm not good at it. But honor your talents and appreciate your capacities and kind of glow in yourself for a minute and be like, yeah, look what I can do. Look what I'm capable of, regardless of the shell that we were given or the physical capacities that we were given. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Which, wow, tangent. Okay, so changes are coming to my website. Changes are coming to my e-commerce. I'm exploding for ideas. I'm really excited about this. I do have a ways to go. I am going to say that this is going to take me a month. I fully expect that, and I'm an under-promise, over-deliver girl. I fully expect that this is going to be an August 1st launch, and that's kind of what I'm going to put that out there and target that so as not to pressure myself, because I want it done tonight. I want all these things just buttoned up and taken care of and reduce my stress. The reality is, give yourself grace. What has been going on outside of that? Well, I did some crafting during my time off, but it was very thoughtful and mindful crafting. I've had to be careful of my shoulder once again. So at my job, we have a lot of people that have been out, and sadly some of my friends there have been out on bereavement. My heart goes out to you. Some of my friends have been out on vacation, and I'm jealous. I hope you're having a ball. But we cover each other. We are a team. And that has meant some added stress for me over the past couple weeks, where I've had to do a lot of extra keying, I've had to do a lot of extra foam work, and these are stressful things. And when I'm stressed like that, all my stress goes into my stress backpack, and my shoulders come up. You can always tell when I'm in trouble. This one especially, I see how high I can get that one. I gotta really work to get this one up. This one is super talented. It goes right into my ear. So that posture puts a lot of pressure on the bursa in my shoulder. And when I'm stressed, when I'm like this, I knit like this, and oh, it aggravates it. So my bursitis acted way up again. And I immediately contacted my doctor. I learn. Not only do I learn to observe what's causing the problem, but I learn to ask for help early. I immediately contacted my doctor, who's headed out on vacations in his own schedule, and I was able to get snuck in, and I got another injection in the shoulder. It has been a long time. I did really well. I exceeded the general period for that. Generally it's about 6 months before you would need one again. I exceeded that. I did very well. I'm doing my exercises again, and I'm taking time off from my knitting, or I'm being careful when I'm knitting about my posture, to drop that shoulder and not be obsessive. Imagine not being an obsessive knitter. I know it's a stretch. So I've been careful in my craft not to further aggravate it and to give some extra time off. And last weekend I actually took a lot of time off from my crafting, but I also applied my craft energy and my stress relief to different craft. So y'all knew that I was doing some drop spindle hand spinning. Here's my spindle, and I believe the last time you saw it, it was loaded with single ply of a white undyed merino on it. Notice it is naked. That is because I finished hand spinning that fiber. I'm very excited to have done that. I did that with my Zoom family. We finished up that bit, and we talked a little bit about plying. Eve, thank you for your advice. Katie, thank you. because I was originally thinking that I wanted to chain ply. I like the concept of chain ply. I had never done it. I had never tried chain knitting. And those of you that don't know, and I get it, I'm talking terms that even 6 months ago I would have been like, huh? So it's like making a chain via crochet. You pull a loop through a loop, except that you do a very long chain and then you ply that, you spin that. That's chain plying. I think it's also referred to as Navajo ply. I could be wholly wrong on that. If you know these things, comment, let me know. And share it with all of us. We all want to know, because I'm not the only novice spinner out there. I had originally thought that I wanted to chain ply because I liked the concept of it. It seemed pretty, it seemed interesting. Fortunately, I was talked back off of that ledge. I did very briefly try to do a draw through with that and discovered very, very quickly that that is beyond my skill set. And having a really toothy yarn, toothy being a wool that wants to stick to itself, made that very complex very quickly. Also, that was going to be when you chain ply. It's 3 plies that are going together, not 2. I think, I'm thinking about the draw through, it's 2. But it was past my skill set, and I simply needed to do a simple two strand ply. And so I caked up my single ply, and then using the outside of the cake and the inside of the cake, I plied them together with my drop spindle, and I washed it and I dried it. I have a mini hand spun skein. Let's see if I can block my face so you can see it. I've got ties in there. You can see my excess ties here to hold it all together. But I made yarn. I made yarn. And I'm ridiculously happy with this. It's mine. I did this. It's lumpy, it's bumpy, it has mistakes in it. It's mine. I accomplished it. I have no idea how many yards are in here. If I had to make a quick guess, 4, 5, 20, 22, somewhere in there. I'm guessing. I'm looking at this thinking it's 18 inches, and I'm counting how many loops I have as a yard each. That's my guess. I think I have like 20 yards. What am I going to do with this? I don't know. I have no plan. I think I'm just going to stare happily at it for a while. Sweetums might get a new accessory made out of it, just so that I always have it and I always have that memory. I really enjoyed plying. I think it was because the act of plying made me feel less like an octopus. There's a lot going on hand spinning. You got to spin the spindle, and then you got to draft, and 3 arms would be great. 3 arms would be great. I definitely want to try a wheel. Do I want to purchase a wheel? No. Do I think that this is going to be a permanent, regular hobby in my life? Probably not. But I find it really interesting, and I expect that I'm going to continue with the drop spindle. I absolutely am going to continue simply because I did purchase this. This was in my acquisitions. I think I talked about this last episode. It's a braid of roving. It's the Newbie. I'm probably saying it wrong, or Noob by Abrigo. It is made in Uruguay. It is 100% pure merino wool. It was hand dyed. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I love this color. I'm really excited to play with this because the colors are going to be gorgeous no matter what I do with it. I definitely will be hand spinning this. My dear friend Juanita, who sent me the drop spindle and who sent me a bunch of samples of fibers, sent me, like I said, a bunch of samples of fibers. And once I got this plied, I didn't have anything on my spindle anymore. And so I decided that I wanted to play with one of the other samples. One of the samples that she sent me was this gorgeous, I don't see if, either way, it was a really, really beautiful acrylic. I didn't know that you could get acrylic and you could spin acrylic. Sorry. I didn't know that you could get acrylic and spin acrylic. Well, lo and behold, you can. So excited. And it's just beautiful colors, colors that really turn me on. I don't know that you're going to be able to see them here. I'm trying to block my face so that the camera doesn't see me. It sees the yarn and focuses on the yarn. I did a single spin and then I plied it same way that I plied the other, and I got so far as to get it on my nitty naughty. I have questions here. So I'm going to use all the wrong terms, I know, because I really don't know. With wool, once it's all plied, you wash it. And after I washed this, I hung it to dry and I did a weighted hang. I hung it and I put a weight on the bottom of it to help set the twist. I know that I need to set the twist. And it did beautifully on this. When I undo it, look, there's yarn. It's not all twisting up like I just plied it. And that makes sense to me. I understand that. And that's basically, if I'm understanding correctly, I'm basically blocking. I'm blocking the fiber still. All good, that makes perfect sense to me. However, I have plied acrylic. Acrylic does not block like this. So, washing and drying this is not going to set the twist, is my understanding. And I'm not sure how to set the twist on this. If it will just behave on its own, or I don't know. I don't know. So I'm going to reach out to Juanita today. Hopefully I can catch her. If you have information about this, if you understand this and know this, please let me know. Please comment or message me. I would love to hear from you about this. Again, it's practice and I'm learning this fiber. I'm really thrilled. I think it's beautiful. I really think it's beautiful. The colors and the twists and how everything comes together is gorgeous. Again, there's mistakes. I can see where some of it is all fuzzy and fluffy because I might have plied in the wrong direction. Not plied in the wrong direction. I might have spun part of the single in the wrong direction. I get confused. I think I'm going to create, this is going to sound so ridiculous. I think I'm going to create a decal for my drop spindle on the top of it up here that tells me spin and points one way and ply and points the other way, so that I remember which way I'm spinning it for which action. I suffer from left-right dyslexia. What does that mean? That means that I very quickly confuse my left from my right. And things like clockwise and counterclockwise, unless I stop and I look at the face of a clock, confuse me. I will mix them up. And that means that if you're in the car with me and we're trying to find some place, I will point to my left and tell you to take a right. I confuse directions very badly. If I draw it out, if I draw the turns, it's different. I can see it in my head. But if I'm speaking and directing, I get confused. And so much so that I had to learn to do this and look for the L to know that that's my left and remind myself that I write with my right. I most recently discovered that when I do this, when I hold these up, that L is my left and J for Jessica is right. These things, they're coping mechanisms, they're tools for me in order to navigate left and right. I think I need a coping mechanism, because as I applied this last night, I clearly saw where I had gotten confused, and I had done my initial spin changing directions just because I had interrupted what I was doing, and when I went back to it, I naturally went the opposite way. When I applied it, I had more luck because I applied it all in one shot, and I could see which direction it was twisting, and it very quickly came untwisted if I went the wrong way. That's a lot on how to go one way or the other. Anyway, so clearly I have enjoyed this. I got a lot done. I really just finished this, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm not sure what little projects I'm going to do with those, but I definitely want to use them for the experience of knitting with the hand spun. I don't know that I've ever knit hand spun. I have hand spun. I have hand spun in my stash, but I don't know that I've ever actually worked with it. So that's going to be a good experience as well. What have I been knitting? Haha, I got some knitting done. Let me make sure I'm grabbing actual knitting and not crochet. Haha, because I've been crocheting too. I've been very crafty lately. Let's see if I can manipulate everything around here so that I can actually get things without, I don't want to drop my nitty knotty, that poor thing. So, I have been working on a new hat design, and it's color work, and this is a test knit, a sample knit of my new design, and it is not what the end pattern is going to be, I've determined. By knitting up what you're designing, you learn a lot. You learn a lot. While this is very pretty, and I'm likely to release it as a pattern, it is not my target design for the project I'm coming up with. And that's why I'm showing you. Otherwise, I would keep it kind of under wraps because I want it to be a release at my next trunk show, which is very exciting. Wow, the camera sees it so differently. I love that. But I've been doing some color work, and one of the challenges of doing color work, especially when you use a lot of different colors, is charting it in a way that you can understand. Because I want the flexibility in my charts for you to substitute whatever color you want and not have to go through the challenge of looking at the yellow square and trying to remember that it's purple. Nor do I want the challenge of having to look at every square and match up A is yellow, B is purple, C is... That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. I want it to be enjoyable. So I've set goals for myself where I break it into sections, and in each section only 2 colors will ever be used. There's only ever 2 colors per row maximum, so that I can break the pattern up a little bit into sections and make it easier to read, easier to understand. This particular design has a lot of overlap, and I'm not sure quite how to say that other than to say in one row it's A and C, in the next row it's A and B, in the next row it's D and E, and that's like in some sections each row is a totally different combination. That's busy, that's a lot of work, that's more work than I want for my design. It's pretty, I like it, but it's more work than I want for my design, for my end pattern. I like to design patterns that are fun. I like them to be enjoyable to work for both my customers, my people, and for myself. If I'm feeling overly challenged, overwrought, or if I'm struggling with it when I'm the designer, it's not going to be what I keep. It's not going to be what I release. It's not going to be my end design. It's important for me that the knitting experience, whether it's for me, for you, for anybody, is comfortable and enjoyable and fun. It should not be a struggle. And to that end, I'm going to make changes to this to make it more enjoyable. It'll be prettier, it'll be a little bit simpler visually, but it's going to be more enjoyable. That's so important to me. Beauty for the sake of beauty. Beauty should not be painful. It shouldn't be painful. I look at Alice Starmore's work. Oh my goodness, isn't that stuff gorgeous? 5 colors per line. Ah! I will admire from afar. That's more challenge than I need in my life. It just is. So this is really, it's something I've been knitting, but it's also something I've been designing. So that'll be interesting when I get further down my list here to skip back over that. What else have I been knitting? I have been knitting, haha. I talked to you guys last time about I was working on my swatch for a sweater that I'm going to do. Well, I swatched and I didn't even have to wash it. I didn't even have to block it to look at it and go, this is wrong. It's not, blocking is not going to make this right. It's not going to make this right. And so I pulled that back out. I knit a second swatch on a different size needle than what was called for, taking into account the data I got from the first swatch. And my second swatch blocked out perfect. It's so worth it. It's so worth it. The sweater is going to fit because I took the time. I hated every minute of doing that swatch work. Absolutely. I had it in my head with the first swatch that I loved the fabric. And I knew well before I was even halfway through that swatch that the swatch was not right. But I had it in my head that I loved the fabric and that there was no way that changing the gauge of that was going to create a fabric that I was still going to appreciate, enjoy, or want. Why I do this to myself, I don't know. But when I finished that swatch and I looked at it and I calculated what changes I was going to have to make to knit at that gauge and get this sweater, it was ridiculous. It was stupid math. It was a challenge beyond enjoyable knitting. And so I decided, all right, fine, kicking and screaming, that I would knit a second swatch at the different needle size. And it came out perfect. And the fabric is still gorgeous. Why I thought that a half a stitch per inch was going to be so visually different, why do I do this to myself? Anywho, the swatch came out perfect. I pulled it back out so that I could use the yarn because, as always, see, the things I do to myself. It will be perfect. I have all the yardage I need. But I was concerned that I wouldn't have the yardage that I was going to need, and so I pulled it back out just to be safe, and I cast on my sweater. This is Brickyard. This is by Elizabeth Doherty. I am doing this in Shannon Shaw of Supernatural Yarns, her hand-dyed yarns, her indie-dyed yarns. This colorway is Acromantula Colony, and it is done on her Kraken DK. It is 100% merino. It's beautiful. I love this colorway. It makes me think of sea glass. It makes me think of bottle glass. It makes me think of broken glass on pavement. I don't know. It's beautiful. I love it. It has a bottle green in it. It has a very pale teal in it. It has a pewter and it has a cream. And I adore it. I think it's beautiful. And I love the stitch that Elizabeth uses in the yoke of this sweater. Gorgeous. It's called Brickyard. It has this beautiful brickwork, like I said, yoke on it. It has some really lovely detailing. It has a modified drop shoulder. It has a curving arch across the bust line and across the back before it goes into an A-line skirting. It's rather fitted through the shoulder, but after that it's loose and flowy. I'm going to show you a picture. This is a black and white photo from the pattern. I printed it in black and white just to save myself ink. but hopefully you can kind of see the detail there. Absolutely beautiful. Here's another picture of the curve and the top front of the yoke. Hopefully you can see it. Absolutely gorgeous. I love the look of it. I love the feel of it. I think the drape of it is going to be beautiful. Very excited to have the opportunity to knit this, and I've cast it on. As you can tell, I'm showing you. There are a couple of elements to this that are a little bit, I was a little concerned. I was a little concerned. For example, on the notions list for my size, she advises that I need 24 stitch markers. Wow. And 2 fixed ring stitch markers and 2 stitch holders. So there's like a lot of stitch markers. That was terrifying. I went into that going, oh, you must be kidding. No. Why would I need that many? You need them. You need them, use them, they're wonderful. This pattern, Elizabeth is brilliant. This pattern is so well written. I cannot emphasize that enough. The measurements are all there. The data is all there. Every last step of the way. I have not had even a moment of confusion, and believe it, sweaters, as soon as I see the words at the same time, I usually burst into tears. I have not found those words in here. Thank you. That they should be banned from sweater patterns. Never again do I want to see the words at the same time. Sorry, I should interject right now. This is going to be edited, and it's going to be choppy, and it's going to be kind of a mess. Lily, my dog Lily, she broke a nail on her back foot, and she broke it bad. Had to go to the vet bad. Because of that injury, she has wrapping all around her foot. Lily is part cat. She is fastidious. She wants to clean all the time. She doesn't like anything touching her, including her humans. If we like, she'll allow us to pet her for a couple minutes, but then she better go and clean herself because she's been touched by her humans. Very, very fastidious, very clean animal. And having a vet wrap on her foot, having her foot completely wrapped up, has been a serious challenge to her fortitude. And so I'm having to keep her in the house a lot more rather than letting her run around and chase lizards outside to keep it clean. We're supposed to keep this wrap on for 72 hours. The vet said that. I laughed out loud. So I'm keeping her near me so that I can catch her if she's pulling at it and picking at it. So you often see me tracking her across the house to make sure she's not going off, sneaking off to go pull at her vet wrap. So please understand that due to home challenges, this is going to be a little bit choppy. As I was saying, Brickyard is exquisitely written. Yes, I used all 24 stitch markers. Yes, they made perfect sense to me. They went in, they came right back out. It works beautifully. And I'm going to curse this project right here, right now. I only cast it on once. The general rule of thumb in this house is that I have to cast it on a minimum of 3 times for it to be a success. Cast it on once. Her instructions are so clear, so clean. No problems, no challenges there at all. The shaping on it is logical. The stitch is beautiful. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be working this. She even has instructions in there for people like me who need to alter the pattern for my armhole depth, whether it's shorter, longer, whatever you need. She has right in her instructions. If you are making a row gauge adjustment, add or subtract pairs of rows in this section. Very clear, very, very smart. Tells you exactly where to make your adjustments if you need to make adjustments. I'm loving this. I can't wait to wear it. Clearly I'm very excited about it. I can't speak enough about it. I endorse this pattern 150%. I fully expect, I'm like knitting it going, oh, I want to knit this again in. Like I'm already thinking about knitting this pattern again because I love it that much. Please, if you have not already, check out Brickyard by Elizabeth Doherty. It's gorgeous. I'm going to keep sharing this every step of the way. And further to curse this project, because casting it on only once can't possibly be right, I put a lifeline in when I finished a section so I can go back if I need to. This is going to be epic. It's going to be such a success because I'm doing everything right. I hope. Oh, please, I hope. I am altering between two skeins for the short row section where you could see how there's a curve happening here. See that angle? I hope the camera's catching. There you go. You can see the angle there. For the short row section, I only worked with one skein because where the row length was changing at regular intervals, it was changing the loop of the repeat in the yarn, and so it kept it from pooling. Now that I'm at a continue back and forth straight kind of area on this, I am alternating between two skeins every 2 rows to keep it breaking up, to keep it from pooling, and so far so good. I'm very happy with it. Further in details, because I've just blathered on about it like you know what's going on. This is a top down in the round. The top yoke is knit the back, and then you pick up and you do the front, and then you end up in the round for the rest of the body. I'm so thrilled with this, so thrilled with this. Obviously, I'm quite sure that you have caught my enthusiasm about this pattern. If not yet, you will soon. It is a pay-to-play, and I will notate the availability of it for y'all. Also, over the last 2 weeks, I have been working on my Stormy Sky Shawl by Life is Cozy. This is a free pattern. I have made good progress on this. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? This is knit using my Swanky colorway on my Tap Monkey base. I love the yarn. I love the color. I'm loving how this grows. I think it's really beautiful. This is going to be a gift for a young lady in my office who's pregnant with her first child. And this is really a gift for her rather than the baby, to remind her how beautiful she is and to hallmark this time for her. As I promised last time, I put in some progress markers so that I can actually see my progress, see what I've done. And for some reason, I was in the car the other day knitting this, and I kind of panicked because I knew I had meant to put a stitch marker in. I had meant to mark it so that I could see my progress, but I wasn't seeing the marker. It's right there. I found it. A cute little progress keeper right there, which means that much of this has been done. I've done about 8 inches of work on it, and it is growing. It is getting bigger every other row here. I am better part of, I must be halfway through based on what I'm feeling here. Very excited about it. It's a 1 ball project. It is go until you run out, which is just lovely. So honestly, if you wanted to use 2 skeins, you could use 2 skeins. You could go forever. It will just keep getting bigger and bigger. I'm loving this project. I'm very proud of it. I can't wait to gift it to her. I'm kind of waiting, well, obviously I'm waiting for baby showers and that sort of thing, but I also want to knit a gift for the baby, and I'm kind of holding off on that to closer to that time because my thoughts about that project have changed. I always think baby sweater. The baby is due in January, early January. We live in the desert, so my considerations about what the baby will be wearing and when need to go in. I need to do the math on that one because reasonably sweater size would have to be somewhere between 9 and 12 months to be appropriate for use. I don't want a newborn sweater. She's going to have a million zillion newborn items given to her, and you go through that period so quickly. I'd rather it be something a larger, longer, have a bigger life to it. Make sense? So there may ultimately be a couple of items, maybe something that she can use immediately and something she can use later. My thought process is changing on that. I'm trying to remember my experience, and my experience is 18 years past now, so I'm recalling as I go along. That's what I've been knitting the past 2 weeks since I saw you last. I have been crocheting as well. I am still working on my Through the Clouds shawl, and I put a progress marker in this as well. I'm not generally a crocheter, I'm really not, but this project just spoke to me. I love this project. It is so pretty. I love this. I love what the camera does with the yarn. I wish I could see what the camera sees, because really the camera does beautiful work with this. I must be just about through the next section. I'll have to do some counting. I put a progress keeper in here as well. There's my little progress keeper. So I've done this much. Get this in. I've done that much of my shawl, which back and forth, it is growing every row. I really enjoy this. I do have to be careful with this. Crochet is very right dominant for me. So I have to be careful with my shoulder with this. So I'm doing this in small bouts. I don't like to leave anything half row. This is the knitter in me speaking. Crochet, you can pretty well stop wherever you want to. It's not going to mess up your tension that much, as opposed to knitting where stopping mid-row can really cause tension issues. Oh boy, it's all wonky from being stuffed in my bag. So I try to complete a complete row before I stop my work. Where the rows are really long right now, I'm having to be very careful about how much time I dedicate to it. So I will often do 2 rows and then set it aside. This one does not travel with me. I have not been road crocheting, I've been road knitting. This is really more my back patio work for, you know, in the evening I sit out there with my husband. It's been a little bit of a challenge lately. The wind has been very, very strong, and we've had a lot of bugs this year, and I have gotten some bug bites that are just unforgiving itchy. I have tried so many different products to try and tamp down the itch on bug bites. Afterbug products, if you have an afterbite product that you love that will absolutely numb you, please let me know. Because these bugs are just horrible this year. So I'm working on this. I'm loving this. I'm very happy with it. I can't wait. It's a nice thick fabric and it looks woven, and I'm excited to wear that this fall. Need to get stitching on that if I'm going to make it to this fall. That is spinning, knitting, crocheting. I talked to you about design. I'm working on that hat design. I'm taking part in a mystery design along, and I had a wicked teaser for you last time where I had to put text up to block it out. I'm not even going to show it to you. I will say that I've made good progress with it, and we are knitting design clue number 2 right now, and I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm enjoying the project. It's really, it's fun, it's beautiful. It's interesting to interact with another designer at the same time, because you're marrying your visions, and where we don't have a target, we don't have a clear end vision, we're letting this organically develop. It's the coolest way to be uncomfortable. It's like walking into a fun house. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know where you're going to go next. You don't know how things are going to unfold, or really what the other person is thinking. And it's almost like playing charades, because they're communicating something to you and you can sort of see it, but you don't see it until you actually do it. It's an interesting experience. And if it's something that you would like to pair up with somebody else on, and you need to facilitate or find somebody else, let me know. Let me know, and I can help facilitate that for you. I will pair up people that do or don't know each other, and we'll see what other wonderful things we can do in a mystery design along. There we go. I also still have this pattern. It's still unnamed. I haven't touched it. I've been taking time off, and that is going to need test knits. I need to finish writing it up. I need to get it tacked. It's in process. It's in process. I'm going to try to get that on my schedule, and I need to be better about that. I think that it's occurring to me now as I'm speaking that I need to really start putting some of these projects into a timeline and mark things down and break them up so that I can see, okay, this weekend we're going to do this piece of this weekend we're going to do this piece of this. If I can, after work, I'm going to try and get this piece of this done. I need to start plotting out more of these projects because I'm missing out on opportunities. I'm missing out on giving you guys what you want to see and what you want to hear, inclusive of the Squircle tutorial. It's still there. I need to work on it, and I'm going to put that on the calendar as well, and we're going to get these things. We're going to start doing things. So that is on the list. I'm going to set aside time today to specifically do that. Acquisitions. This week I do not have any acquisitions. I am really trying to use the materials I have because I have a huge stash. I have been looking at a lot of different indie dyers that I was not previously aware of. Unfortunately, several indie dyers have closed up their works. Just changes in their lives, changes in their goals, changes in their business. They're not doing as much as they were. Many of my favorites are still plugging away and making beautiful, beautiful yarns. But there's a lot of new indie dyers that are coming up, as well as some that are just getting exposure that they previously didn't have a lot of exposure. If you are a new indie dyer and you're out there, announce yourself. Let me know. I would love to see what you're doing, and if you have questions or if you have suggestions, please reach out to me. I want to interact. I enjoy that time. Let's see. Oh, so Patreon. The benefit emails will be going out next weekend. As soon as the month end goes through, I'll start sending that information out to you about your credits. Thank you all very much for your patronage. Your support means the world to me. With the advent of the new website, the new e-commerce site, there's a lot of extra benefits to being in control of my own site. Previously, if you've gone to my website, you see that it drops you off on my blog, and there's links that go off from there. I'm flipping it, very much so. So you went to my blog, and you could go to my Etsy site, or you could go to my YouTube site, or you could jump off to my patterns. A lot of that is still going to happen, but it's going to happen from a website itself rather than a blog site. And my blog's still going to be there. My shop is going to be live right there for you instead of jumping off to another platform. There's other added benefits to being in control of this, and that is member pages, private pages. With these private pages, we're going to have a lot more exclusive content. I'm going to have more control over that. One of the challenges that I have with the Patreon website, it handles the membership for me, it handles the patronage for me, it does tracking for me. They're wonderful. I'm not getting rid of them. I'm still going to use them. However, if I put exclusive content up, it works very much like a blog in that these things age and they fall away, and you don't have nice quick access to it. If you wanted to go back and you wanted to read a specific post, or you wanted to see a specific video, it was a little bit of a challenge to find that content. You could kind of look through tags. That's my argument about it. I am not thrilled with how they archive data, how the data gets posted for exclusive content. With my new site, we will actually have member pages where I will be able to put the content that you want to see, that I will be able to say, here's this tutorial, here's this video, here's this series about design. All that exclusive content will be easy to get to, easy to acquire. That's important to me. That's important to me. If you're going to have exclusive content, you should have ready access. And I hope to improve that with this change to the website. That may be that fewer things are posted to the Patreon site. There will be links posted there to the content that's in the member pages. Hopefully that won't be too distracting or too much of a confusion. It'll be easier simply to just log onto my website and see it right there. I'm trying to streamline this. I'm trying to make it easy use. I'm trying to improve your experience. I would love to hear from you, regardless of whether you're one of my patrons, whether you're just finding me now and you're only here for Knit Up and Dye, whether you're here specifically for tutorials, whether you support my patterns or my yarn, whether you simply want to see what I'm doing with other people's patterns and other people's yarns. Your feedback matters. Your feedback is important to me. It helps me learn. It helps me improve. It helps me be a better presenter, a better designer, a better knitter, a better spinner, a better crocheter, a better dyer. Please interact with me. I would love to hear from you. That is everything I have for you, with the exception of I need to do some dyeing, and I'm going to take you with me into the dye studio. So let's go play in my kitchen for a while. And welcome to my kitchen. So one of the projects that I've been working on so far as my dyeing goes is a slow fade. What does that mean? I am over a long period of time creating colorways that basically can fade together, can all work together. And you've seen two of the colorways already, but I'm working to develop the third one. The first colorway that I developed was Copper River. Y'all have seen this. It is a bright orange, bright burnt orange and a teal, and it has a navy speckle on it. I love this colorway. It's really, really beautiful. It pulls together two of my heartstrings, orange and blue. But I wanted to have something that would work with this, and that's where I came in with Gypsy. Gypsy plays with the reds and the oranges that you see in Copper River, but it plays up the red a lot stronger and offers a teal. The teal and the orange are highlighted with a deep burnt orange speckle. See if I can block me so that the camera can see it. And I'm sorry, the lighting in my kitchen is not the best for this, and it doesn't matter if I bring in the professional lighting. I've still got overhead lighting. My apologies. Either way, so I have these, and they're beautiful companions of each other, but I wanted to keep going with the series. So for me, the next step was to go with a red and a teal and eliminate the orange from it and bring back in the navy speckle. To do that, I need to tweak the red. The red that's in this has an orange undertone to it, and when I put that back on here, it's always going to leave an orange undertone. I wanted it to be more standalone. I wanted to take orange out of the equation as this faded on and start replacing in with the navy. To do that, I had to change the formula of the red to remove the orange undertones. Easy enough. I knew what my formula was, so I was able to do that. But let's look at how these are being accomplished, how I'm getting these colorways in the first place. So I'm going to make the next color in the series. I haven't named it. I don't know what it's named yet. It really depends on whether or not it comes out and matches up. Like I said, I've tweaked the color formula, but I haven't dyed it yet, so I don't know where it's going to go. Ultimately, I expect, because Gypsy has a little bit of a purple where the reds and the teals cross over, I expect that it's going to have purple in it, and I don't mind incorporating a violet purple tone into this. So I'm going to mix up my dye, and I'm going to apply it to the yarn and show you kind of the steps in my methodology. So here I have a roasting pan. I have 6 cups of preheated water in here with 2 skeins of yarn. They're 100 grams each, and I have 1 cup of vinegar in here. I'm letting this soak so that it's fully submerged. There's not a lot of water in here. You can see that there's not a deep pool in here, but enough to keep the yarn floating, just barely, so that it's not going to singe or cook to the bottom of the pan. I want that water as a buffer. I also want it as a float so that the dye can spread throughout the project here. Always wear a mask when you're working with powdered dyes. The water in these jars is preheated. I have approximately 1 cup of water in each. It's just tap water. My acid is in the actual yarn bath here. These need to be stirred really, really well so that the dye dissolves fully in the water. You don't want to use undissolved dye. It'll cause, it'll cause speckling. It depends on what your project is, whether you want to use undissolved dye or not. But for a nice even tone, you want to be sure that it's really, really well dissolved. If it's not dissolved well, you'll get breaking. And that's when the dye breaks back down into its different color components that make up the color. That can be a lot of fun. I like to work with breaking dyes. You get a lot of really neat effects. Now that I'm confident that my dye is fully dissolved in my water, I'm going to position the yarn for the effect I want to get. Ultimately, what I want to have happen is have bright color on one end, bright color on the other end, and a blend between the two. This is my technique. There's a million other ways to get this technique. You can hand apply it, you can squirt it on. I just happen to do it this way for a really tonal blend. I'm going to scrunch all the yarn up. I'm going to position it in the middle of my pan so that I have a void on each end. I'm going to pour my dye into the void. On each end of my pan. You see that the dye works as a really effective, or the yarn works as a really effective dam between the two. It will seep in from both ends. You'll get a really, really slow gradient doing that. It will take a really long time. Ultimately, I want it to strike. I want it to be really strong on each end. By keeping it divided out like this, there is going to be a blend point, but there's going to be a really deep color, deep saturation on each end. And I'm simply going to push it into each end, stretching those yarns back out and causing that blend. Now there's still heavy dye in each of the void ends, but the yarn is stretched back out over the full length of the pan now. That's going to add a tonal quality to it because it's still going to blend as it sets. This is ready to go in the oven and set up as it is. How will I know it's set? When there's no dye left in the void, when I see clear water again. All the dye will have absorbed into the yarn. I'm putting it in my oven at 230 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be in there for a minimum of 20 minutes. Alright, so it's been 20-25 minutes since I put this in the oven. You can see here on the sides, hopefully, that the water is mostly clear. Let's see if I can pull it aside so you can see how clear the water is. all the dye has been taken out. This is very, very clear. And I've got nice, strong, bold colors here in my yarn. But I was talking to you about how I wanted to add a speckle element to this. So for this particular colorway, what I'm going to do is flip over to the other side, because I know that more dye is on the top than there is on the bottom. So I'm just going to reposition my skeins. And there it is. You can see there's a big section here that's light colored that didn't get a lot of dye. Let's flip this one. I think this one's even more so. And this is the beauty of hand dyed. Every one has variance. Every one of them is different. So I've got this really neat area here that's lighter tones. It's very tonal. It's gradients of the color from each end. This is a great place for me to display the speckles because they're really going to stand out, whereas on the other side it was much darker, it was much more filled in, and you wouldn't have gotten the effect as much. Speckling is not my favorite technique. It's beautiful. I love the yarn that I get out of it. But it's a dangerous technique because you're aspirating the powder into the air. So I don't do a lot of it, and when I do it, I'm using very limited amounts of it, and I'm applying it very, very carefully. To do my speckling, I either use, let's see if I can grab the tool here, not the tool I'm using today. I use just a standard salt shaker. That works very well. It's large, and it's not the easiest thing to clean, so it's not my favorite tool for speckling. This is my preferred tool for speckling. It is a sugar duster. You see it's a ball system here. This rotates and opens it up to give you exposure to it, and it's got a sifter side on it here and a solid side on the back. It's smaller, it's more compact, it's really easy to clean because it opens all the way up. And because of its compact size and wand format, I'm not having to shake it quite so much. I'm not aspirating as much of the dye into the air. With this, because you get a lot of holes and the dye is very, very fine, you want to put in a dispensing agent. What I use for that is just a little bit of rice, bulk rice. Of varying sizes. I like to use a very inexpensive wild rice if I can find it. Really, really affordable, really cheap. I use about a teaspoon of it. The varying sizes of the rice kind of help break up the dye more and dispense it more evenly. Otherwise, without a dispensing agent in here, it's just going to pour out or it's going to clump and stay in here. Always, always, always when working with powdered dyes, use a mask. So you'll see I put the powdered dye right into my duster. I close that up. I'm going to tap it a couple times to help break it up and get it over the rice. Then I'm simply going to turn it mostly sideways and shake back and forth very gently to urge the dye out through the holes. You have a lot of control here. You can use a lot, you can use a little, you can apply multiple colors. Just keep in mind that once they hit the liquid, they are going to spread and they're going to blend. These dyes have already been set, so they're not going to blend much with the dye that's already in there. But if I were to sprinkle a second color on, they would blend with the second sprinkle. That's it. I'm going to be very, very careful in putting this back in the oven. I don't want to slosh it too much because I'll lose the speckled effect. That'll go back into my oven for another 20 minutes or so. The easiest way for me to check is to just poke in an area that has speckling to see if it bleeds or blends at all. If it's still bleeding, it needs to set longer. Ultimately, it should set with the speckles exactly where I put them. That's how I get that effect. Whether or not this is going to line up lovely with the other yarns that I'm trying to create a slow fade with is going to depend entirely on what it looks like when it's dry. My gut reaction is it's not the best blend. I tweaked out my red and I removed a lot of the orange undertones from it, and I got more of a blue-red. I don't know that it's going to translate beautifully into a nice smooth blend with this, but it depends. What your colors look like next to each other changes depending on what color's next to it. So I'm going to dry that up and see what happens. That's it. That's what I've got for you guys in the kitchen today. So I had a great question via the YouTube posts a couple episodes, maybe last episode back, that I haven't responded to. I want to be sure that I do. This is an important question and it's very confusing, especially when it comes to ties on your yarn. Every yarn dyer handles their ties a little bit differently. And you're going to find that some have a single tie left in them, some have multiple ties in them. Identifying what you can cut and what you can't can be a challenge. So we're going to look at a couple different formats. This particular skein is a skein from Abrigo. Lovely orange, bought it because I loved it. Beautiful. But it has 1, 2, 3, 4 ties on it. What's safe to cut? In this particular case, Abrigo has a very thin line, that is lighter than the yarn itself so far as weight goes, that is their stay ties. These are the ties that are just used to stabilize and organize the yarn. Any of these can be cut. If you question cutting a set of ties, pull the knot up, identify your knot, pull your yarn up and clip right under the knot. That will always be the safest place to cut. For this particular skein, when I go around, 3 of the ties are this very light thread, and 1 of them is yarn. When I pull this knot up, I can see that it's yarn, and I can see that it's a slip knot, that if I pull, will release it completely. When I really pay attention and I chase the yarn through here, I discover pretty quickly that it becomes part of this skein. I'm trying to identify it and isolate it for you. It becomes part of this skein. So I know that if I cut this here, I could be cutting in a bad place. Again, if it doesn't just come unknotted, like this one does, cut right under the knot. That's going to be the safest place for you to cut to release your yarn for balling. Now retie that because I'm not ready to use this or cake this quite yet. That's this skein. Every skein is a little different. On my skeins, when I send them out, you're only going to have 1 tie left in place. 1. This tie, when you pull it up and look at it, has 4 lines coming out of it. See if I can get you to see that. Let's get me out of the frame. And there we go. You should see 4 lines there. If you cut directly under the knot, 1 of those is going to be a thread that's just stabilizing the skein. 2 of them are going to be the beginning and the end of the skein. If you have multiples on a skein that's India dyed, always look for the 4. That's the beginning, the end, and 1 stabilizer. And all the others with any 2 are simply going to be stabilizer lines. Hopefully this makes sense and it makes you more confident in cutting those yarns. They can be scary. Look carefully. Lay it out on a table, spread it out, and see what is really happening with that line. I've cut skeins. I'm not afraid to admit I have cut skeins, and it would be a third the way, halfway into the entire skein that I would suddenly have a split. The good news is if you're working with wool, you can easily splice those back together or simply weave in a couple ends. It'll be okay. That's it, that's all. I hope you guys enjoyed this experience, and I hope you reach out to me and let me know your thoughts, your questions, your suggestions, your ideas, and I hope to see you next time. Have a great week. Bye.